Dear colleagues, good evening. Everyone, for some of you, good afternoon. Welcome to our today's meeting. I can see you have started the meeting without me, and you're being quite active in the chat, telling people what city, region, and country you are from. This is cool. And I see our geography as extensive as ever. Friends, I think we have both video and sound. Give me a score from 1 to 10, please. So we don't spend time on checking the sound. Yeah, I see tens in the chat, meaning that both sound and video are okay. So colleagues, today we are going to have an hour longish meeting today, and we're going to discuss quite a fundamental topic, which I'll try to cover to the best of my abilities in the simplest terms possible. So let me remind you first that we are about to launch the Micron Global platform very soon. And on the eve of launching it, it is my firm belief that someone doesn't know how to turn their sound on. You should have the sound on by default as far as Zoom concerned. If there's a problem, then probably you'll have to enable it on your gadget, on your device, because 90% of our participants, more, tell me that everything is fine. So let me start over. Before we discuss the technicalities of the launch of the Micron Global platform next meeting and what's going to happen to RSW systems, I think it is my duty to discuss with you quite a fundamental thing, which is what the string transportation technology currently is, UST is, and why crowd investing as a fundraising mechanism will persist for the foreseeable future, and why it is important for us as investors into UST. I've noticed that recently there have been quite a lot of questions. I saw those questions in the comments under the video and on YouTube, and comments in the Telegram channel. So let's see if the sound is okay, because there are still people who can't hear me. Dear colleagues, are we okay with the sound? Give me a score from 1 to 10. Again. Okay, dear partners, those of you who are having sound problems, check the chat. We have tens all over the place. Even we don't have even nines, which means that it should be crystal clear. I've noticed that of recent there have been quite a lot of repeated questions that have been, people have been asking them from month to month, year to year, talking about the return on investments. Dividends are taking too long. Someone says their expectations have been not met regarding the remuneration, and all other, let's say, negative feedback. And let me point out that I touched upon this topic on numerous occasions, and I gave answers to those questions many a time. And I think still I have to do it today again, because on the eve of the launch of the updated platform, we need to have all those questions cleared, and our partners need to have a clear, transparent understanding of what we do and why the UST, or string transportation technology, is developing way faster and more rapidly than its counterparts in the market. And there is proof to that. So let's go back to the origins, back to 2014. Please tell me what category this technology, UST technology, belonged back in 2014 in terms of like investment project? Yelena Samahina, I know that you're a professional investor and you gave the correct answer first. It was venture high risk project. This is the exact definition and description of a venture investment project. It's a technology, high risk technological project with high level of uncertainty. Therefore, in 2014, all the investors should have taken it as such, as a technology that may come true and may not come true. Because back in 2014, there was nothing to show for. It was just Dr. Unitsky with his very rich background, academic knowledge, and his portfolio of inventions for us to believe that this technology will be implemented. But back in 2014, there was no proof that this technology would eventually be implemented. It was a purely venture high risk project. Then time passed, 10 years passed since the engineering school was established in 2015, and the Unitsky Strain Technologies Inc. has been operating in Belarus. So it's the almost the end of 2025. So it's 10 years. And over that time, we could see with our own eyes that we made the right choice. The technology is viable, it has been implemented, and the company has two commercial products ready for market, which is urban passenger and cargo transport systems. And Raisa added that it should have been perceived also as a long-term project in 2014. And remember, during one of my meetings, I gave real-life examples of other companies in the innovative transportation sector that left the market. And I'm talking about quite big names with such people behind them as Elon Musk, Richard Benson, and other companies that were headed and funded with big capitals from big-time businessmen and state subsidies and grants and all other concessional loans. And I think quite a dozen of them have been shut down since. And those companies never even reached stage 2 or 3 of what UST was able to achieve, because every technological project has its own milestones of implementation, like stages, steps in its process. 1 second, please. Yes, there are steps, stages in the technological implementation process. But those companies that shut down were established even before, earlier, and they have no certification, no ready products, no practical application. So what I'm driving at here, that in 2014, 2015, 2016, many people who came to the string transportation technology, they came because they believed that this technology would be in demand, that in the last 200 years in the transportation market, there have been no innovations, neither in aviation, railroad, or motor car technologies. All the innovations were all about the upgrading, modernization, but the basic principles have been the same. And we, who looked into Dr. Unitsky's technology and Dr. Unitsky himself, we realized that what he was offering is indeed an innovation and can be a breakthrough in transportation. Moreover, many of us, well, let me put it this way. Dr. Unitsky always said that string transportation technology is a sector-shaping technology. And those people who understood that had a deep, full knowledge, reasonable knowledge and understanding of the process and the technology implementation, creation, and scaling up, knew that the technology takes more than 3, 5 years or even 10 years to build up, to be created Some technologies take dozens of years. Still, some of our investors, some of our partners, they, I guess, combined in their perception the understanding of scale, or better, they had a mix up, confused the scale of the technology with the, didn't have, let me put it this way, didn't have a realistic expectation of how long it would take. They simply decided that it was a very promising technology, we invest, and soon the pay day will come. And of course, their expectations were not met in the time period they expected those expectations to be met. And it's not their fault. It's actually not their fault because many people who brought them to this technology, the opinion leaders, the big marketing leaders in the crowd marketing and crowd investing, they kind of took advantage of the trust of those people, or better, they engaged in wishful thinking, and they sold them pipe dreams. And of course, it's their fault, the opinion leaders, and that's why we have some negative feedback from some of our investors. And again, I repeat, this is not their fault. It's just because of too high expectations for different reasons, whether it is because their leaders promised them, or probably people's own perception of the technology, and some of them, they thought that the technology would start paying dividends in 2019, 2020. But that's not how this particular sector works. It's not a fintech sector where you can issue a token, that token skyrockets, and then a person gets hundreds or thousands of X's, and then they lose it all when the token is pumped and dumped, because that's how it works in blockchain, in cryptocurrency. So this is not something that you can create with a small team and create huge volumes like in IT, because in IT you can create a good, viable product very quickly, because we are a consumer society after all. And when there are other when there are a lot of different products that can satisfy the current demands of people and do it in a very short period of time, then of course such startups can become unicorn companies in a couple of years, 3 to 5 years tops, several $billion. But we are involved in the most corrupted sector in the world, transportation sector. There are lots of bureaucratic and other kinds of obstacles in it. And you probably know, you can observe it in your own countries. And now imagine an innovation comes into that sector that can change the entire rules of the game, the entire logic of transportation, how people move around. And it can change the entire logistics or different applications like passenger, cargo, transportation, high speed traveling, intercity travel, etc. And this is the kind of sector we are engaged in. So do you think, colleagues, it is possible for such a huge, large-scale, innovative product to be implemented in just 3-5 years, as some of our investors thought or think it could be? Do you think it is realistic to implement something like this in 3 to 5 years, considering the entire background that I've just described you? Well, people are saying no in the chat. Of course, it was more like a rhetorical question. Well, probably it could be possible in the perfect world, where all the stars would align and where everything would happen together, like sustainable funding in the required amount, A. B. Actual customers such as state agencies and organizations that would not only place orders for the technology, but also lobby it in the international market. Third, C, the company should be staffed immediately with highly skilled engineers that would know what this technology is all about and would understand Dr. Nitsky right away without too much explanation. So even if we had sufficient funding and lobbying of the technology by the state, we wouldn't be able to do it in a short period of time because there is a point C, which is insufficient know-how in the people, not enough highly skilled engineers. And Dr. Nitsky started an engineering school from scratch. And by 2018-19, he already had several engineering bureaus, and currently the chief engineering bureau of Dr. Nitsky has now the status of a R&D institute. But it took years and years to Dr. Nitsky to put together such a big team, and a lot of people had to be let go because not everyone is up to the standards, required standards. Not everyone was able to adapt themselves to the new engineering technology, to new demands. And Dr. Nitsky had to set up a very high-skilled, experienced team, and a lot of people had to be weeded out, had to be pruned. As for the 15 stages that colleagues are writing about, so the original 15 stages was kind of a course set for the company. It was quite an optimistic plan for the implementation of string transportation technology. And it could be implemented in the perfect world if all the factors were there, the three factors that I mentioned. But we all know that throughout each stage of the plan, those stages were reached or achieved not because of the funding, but because Dr. Nitsky optimized costs and optimized the process. Because there were two criteria for each stage, which is first, funding, and second, the readiness of certain operations works. And the stages were reached because the operations have been conducted regardless of the insufficient funding, which is totally the merit of Dr. Nitsky. We have to give him credit because thanks to his ability to optimize costs and to create more with less funds. And this is a tribute to the unique genius of Dr. Nitsky. And what we have today is the result of the hardest and labor of Dr. Nitsky's sweat and blood. And more tangible results, of course, will be quite more visible later, and we will discuss it later. As far as this part of my speech is concerned, I would like to emphasize that throughout this period, unfortunately, many of our investors did not fully understand the scale of the project they invested in. And again, a key role in it played too high expectations, or probably some people invested because of their investments were based on emotions without doing proper due diligence, because before you invest in a project, you should research that project. And for me, even with my basic understanding of investing in 2014, it was clear that this project was a high-risk project. However, if it gets implemented, all those risks would be totally justified, because you shouldn't have invested all your money into this project. You invest 1 to 5% of your investment portfolio into such projects. So back in 2014, I told myself, if this project ever gets implemented, it will be totally worth the risk. And if it doesn't get implemented, well, I won't be too much upset. I won't regret it too much because I knew what I was going for. And I always liked taking risks. And I took reasonable risks in 2014 with reasonable amount of money. So for me, it was worse not taking the risk, because if I didn't take the risk, didn't invest, and then the technology would prove viable, I would have a big regret, feeling of regret, the feeling of lost opportunity, like some people have when they see how the crypto grew. Some of us missed the opportunity of investing in Bitcoin or Ethereum 10 years ago when it cost like pennies. And with a small amount, we could have bought quite a big amount of coins back then and now would have a lot of money. But many people did not properly understand the opportunity, didn't have trust in crypto, and other reasons, and now have the feeling of regret. A user in the chat says that there is a book called Engineer, and it has a proper description of it all. I recommend everyone read it, and then you won't have any negativity. Exactly. This is why I have a personal understanding that the technology is developing way faster compared to its counterparts, other similar technologies in the sector, compared to our scale, because I see how it's happening from the inside. I visited the production facilities on numerous occasions. I was at the Unitsky String Transportation Inc., and it is my privilege to be able to meet on regular basis with Dr. Unitsky and see the process and truly appreciate the sheer amount of labor and effort Dr. Unitsky is putting into it. And we're not talking about just commercialization. We're talking about the inner workings of the GTI group of companies, the operations of Dr. Unitsky, how it all works. But every process, every single output is a huge amount of work, like 60 plus different production, different units out there, companies and bureaus. And now it works like a Swiss clockwork. And it still works even when Dr. Nitsky is on a business trip to the United States or the United Arab Emirates. It works even without him. It's because he properly set the entire operation. It took him time, effort, but he did it. And it is quite clear to me that the results that the company has right now are bigger than they could have been over the same period of time with the same amount of money the company received as investments over the years. So, friends, Gulnara says, of course, it would be better to buy pre-IPO shares and regret they didn't skyrocket than not buy the pre-IPO shares and regret when they skyrocketed. I agree. And Dr. Nitsky right now is in the United States working quite actively on the new high-speed project. And in his absence, Unitsky Technologies Inc. is working flawlessly as a well-oiled machine. Now, friends, we went to the origins, how it all started. It started as a venture project. And now let's ask ourselves what stage the string transportation technology is at. Whether UST project is no longer a venture project. What's your opinion? And after you answer me, we will break it down. We will check it against all the venture project criteria and see what we have and what we don't have. And at the end, we'll answer the question whether we will still need crowd investing in the future. So, in your opinion, are we no longer a venture project, or are we still a venture project? Or have we solved the task of moving from venture to investment project? Now, let me read it. We have a ready track and transportation. Then someone says, stop asking about dividends. Maxim already answered the question about dividends in the near future. Then Marina says, there are still risks. Okay. Someone says, yes, we are no longer a venture project. Someone says, we have almost left the venture stage because we don't have yet mass orders, a bigger number of orders. We're already in the market. Someone says we're no longer a venture project. Yes, we're no longer a venture project because we have two ready products. And then someone says we are 90% not a venture project and 10% venture project. And Yelena says that the project still needs financial support and there are still risks. Well, Yelena, as always, being a professional investor, you hit the nail on the head. So indeed, still, because the project still needs financial support, there are still risks out there. And let's see what kind of risks and why our active participation is necessary and why crowd investing is still necessary. Margarita wrote, I think risks are always there, but we are no longer a venture project. Well, of course, we live in a world that only changes are constant. And we need to be able to adapt. Just take a look at the companies that were 50, 80 years old. They weren't able to adapt during the COVID times and had to leave the market. Nobody expected this risk. So let's see the venture project criteria. So when a project no longer is a venture project but becomes an investment project. Well, first, when the level of uncertainty and risk is lower and the risk prediction model becomes more clear. So first, it's when the technology becomes viable, when there is a prototype, pilot projects have been launched, and the technology can be scaled up without fundamental risks. This is the level of technological readiness. So if we take this item, yes, we are no longer a venture project because we already have prototypes, they are certified, and all the elements of the string transport are certified. All the systems, components, track structures, etc. Moreover, standards are being developed and are adopted already for this type of transportation in certain countries. So this point is checked. Pilot project. Well, we have a pilot project launched almost a year ago in the Aquarelle Park, and it was successfully launched into operation. It's working, and now in Belarus we have a second order from the state agency. There has been news published recently that this design stage was completed for this project. So yes, this criterion is also checked. We can say that we're no longer a venture project according to this criterion. Now, next, when we have real clients, when there is a continuous demand, repeated sales, the predictable income, and all of it taken together also forms a criterion whether a project is a venture project or not. And here we are 50-50. Why? Do we have real clients? Yes, we do have real customers who pay money for the design work, for the engineering work. Do we have repeated sales? Well, not quite. Have not yet reached that stage. Well, Belarus probably will be the first country where we will have those repeated sales, and I'll explain why. in my opinion, it was quite a correct step to launch. Just give me a second. We have someone spamming in the chat. So, dear colleagues, I see spamming in the chat. Let's be polite, okay? And do not keep copy pasting the same message over and over again, okay? So regarding the repeated sales or repeated orders and the stable demand for the product. Well, as for the first pilot project that was implemented in Aquarel Park, in my opinion, it was a correct and genius move from Dr. Unitsky, and I'll explain why. A year has passed, or better, not even a year has passed since the launch of the first pilot project. It's been several months since, and the state itself showed interest in implementing a similar project in Belarus, in a different location. And many people wrote comments like, this was a too small a product, the track is short, etc., etc. The project was not important. Of course, I respect everyone's opinion, but people, let's try expand our world outlook. Let's try to remove those blinds that narrow our vision. Let's talk about the cause and effect here. First, the Aquarel project was launched, and a couple of months later, there is a bigger order from the state, and the potential customer sees the technology works. It doesn't matter if it is a small U-pod on a short track in Aquarel. Doesn't matter. It shows that the technology is working. It's viable. That it's not a test track anymore. It's an actual real-life track that people use to move from point A to point B and pay money for it. And the customer from the external market sees that the technology is viable. And they say, well, in order to have something similar in my country, in my territory, to connect point A and point B, or to connect two cities, capital and suburbs, for example, let's place an order first, see how the engineering company works, how the team performs, how all the processes are set up, starting from design all the way to production and startup and commissioning. And after that, we will be able to give a proper evaluation and then give a big order to that company. And that's what's happening right now, in my opinion. And it's quite clear and logical. So as for this particular bullet point, when the market is there for the product, we are just reaching that stage when the company is able to prove that its technology is viable. And this is the transition point from venture project to an investment project. So, dear colleagues, do you agree with my viewpoint on this particular subject? Maxim, my namesake, wrote that there won't be big, long track projects because customers are right now not entirely sure of the new player in the market. And first, they will be placing orders for smaller projects. Exactly. I see that, judging by your feedback, you agree with me. Good, friends. It means that we are on the same page here. Next, friends. The next criterion of a venture project, or better, when a company is no longer a venture project, it's when a company does not need venture money anymore and they need bank or corporate money. So if a project is ready to receive loans to increase their production, it means that the investments are predictable. And we are at the stage when we are setting everything in motion and we're starting the scaling up. Because currently the company doesn't work because, or is not entirely self-sufficient that it can cover all its costs with its revenues, because the income part, the revenues are not stable. We don't have a consistent cash flow or flow of orders that would completely cover all of our costs. Yes, we have lots of projects in the pipeline, but they are at different stages. Some of them are at the design stage, some of them are at the negotiation stage, and the closest project on the horizon is in Belarus, in a resort complex, Sosny. And for that machine to start, like for the gears to start rotating, working, we need this project to be implemented, then another one to be implemented, and then we'll have several projects in different locations working. That's when we're gonna be in a completely different milestone. So next, when the company growth is stable and not longer explosive. In other words, when a company moves to a gradual, stable growth and the growth is no longer explosive. It meaning that the company receives regular orders from regular customers, and for us, a signal as investors that this stage will be reached is when the company has more projects in its portfolio, and when the company will have more bureaus, design bureaus opened because the current staff can no longer handle all the orders. So there are two options here. Either the company cannot quickly perform all the orders and they will have to put customers in line, and I hope it's not going to happen. I hope that the engineering company management will scale up and increase their staff, their engineering personnel, and that's what they're doing. They're preparing for it. You know that the company now has collaboration agreements with universities and institutes, memorandums of understanding. And in some of the institutes, there will be retraining courses for engineers for them to become specialists and professionals in string transportation. So it's now becoming a separate profession, and the company is working with a number of higher education establishments because it's laying the foundation for the future scaling up. And when the company's growth becomes stable, well, we're not yet there in terms of meeting this criterion. We're still working on it. And to sum it all up, one more thing. I omitted one very important bullet point, and then I will sum it up. When the model or the project starts bringing stable revenues, so if the company does not burn money but generates net profit, it's a sure sign that the project is no longer a venture project. In our case, the engineering company currently burns its own money and our venture investments. What I mean, to maintain an engineering team and the entire GTI group of companies requires millions of dollars per month. An average salary for 1,000 people strong company, even it's like $1,500 per person as salary, it's already $1,500,000. Add here the land lease and the software, licensed software, and some of them cost several hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Add here marketing costs related to the promotion of the technology, taxes that the company has to pay in all of its jurisdictions where it's registered and where there is taxation, utilities like electricity, gas, water, all of it is costs. And of course, we can add here the maintenance of equipment and carpools or special machinery that the company owns, like trucks, cars, CPU machines. Because many of you know that on SW plant, we have the cutting edge CPU machines. And if some of the pieces of equipment fails or breaks down, it costs money to repair them. So all of it taken together translates into $2.5 million per month as expenses. And now let's think logically about it. Is it possible for the entire structure right now, GTI, to generate such profits considering the orders it has right now? If we take a project in Nepal, yes, a contract has been signed, an agreement has been signed, but this project in Nepal had to be put on hold because of the political events happening in the country. There were protests, well, riots, you know, and the project has been frozen. And the new establishment, new political team is ready to renew the project. Now let's take a project in the resort in Belarus, in Sosna. It is not a large-scale project that would allow money to make a lot of money from design and from the entire technological process. It's a small project. Project in India, Indonesia, the Emirates, they are not at the stage yet for us to be able to say that we will receive a lot of money, that the company will receive a lot of money from it. Not yet there. Now we have two possible scenarios here. In the upcoming months and years, in the upcoming year, the company has two scenarios or three scenarios. Either the company will have to start receiving stable revenues, and I, as an investor into the string transportation technology, cannot see it happening yet because there isn't a big line of customers, actual customers that would be start paying big money. Well, they are there, but at different stages. Remember, I told you, negotiations, design, etc. On the one hand, we have potential customers waiting their place in the line. Right now, I'm in Europe, for example. And this Thursday, I made a presentation to a circle of people. And one of the first questions was where it has been already implemented. It's a standard question when they see a new technology. And we're talking about people from decision makers. And it's always important for them. And even if a customer, a country wants to place an order, they're still afraid of the period when there isn't yet a big project implemented somewhere else, and they prefer to sit on the sidelines and wait. And in my opinion, the winner be the country or the customer that will make the first big move, and that customer and country will prosper a lot, will benefit a lot when we'll be the first to implement a large-scale string transportation project. But currently, we're not at a stage when we have a regular flow of orders coming our way. So how should the company proceed work? So the company has a parent company, GTI holding company, and this holding company has still quite a lot of unsold pre-IPO shares. So the company has still the opportunity to continue selling the pre-IPO shares, the co-ownership of the technology, and use that money to fund its activities, to include it in the authorized capital. So this is what I meant burning its money. So that's why I called it burning, but it should be put in quotes. And I hope you understand the context or the subtext for this word. It's not like actual burning. That's the company is using its own money to fund its activities. And that's why we haven't yet fully left the venture stage. And currently, the biggest risks here are not that the company is not going to receive orders. It will be receiving orders for sure, because all the events happening right now tell us that the orders will be coming. The technology has been presented at the BRICS level. The technology has been supported by the top management of the Union State, of the General Secretary of the Union State. It has been supported by different ministers of transportation across the world. It has actual customers who are either getting ready to place orders or are still observing the technology. So friends, there will be orders. The risk is not about the lack of orders. There is no risks associated with the technology. The technology is viable. But in the commercial investment dimension aspect, yes, it's all about us being able to maintain the required amount of funding and to ensure that funding through crowd investing, because until such time when the company starts generating net profit on its own, crowd investing will continue and will be necessary. And it's okay, friends and colleagues. Take a look at the Tesla history, and I covered it at length during one of my meetings. They started generating profit 16 years after their establishment, and they received billions of dollars of dotations, of subsidies, and concessional loans and grants. I think it's around $16 billion. And Tesla company has Elon Musk, who came to this company being quite a rich person when he bought Tesla. And it still took them 16 years to start generating net profit. But we are at a very good crossroads here. We can already start receiving dividends from the first orders, provided we keep funding the technology through crowd investing, keep funding GTI. So what is the practical implementation of it? So currently we are at a stage when the company still needs regular funding for its operations, so that the company would continue working on the current orders. The company needs to maintain itself. The company has a parent company, and we're all co-investors in that parent company, the GTI holding. And that company still has around 70 billion unsold pre-IPO shares that it can sell. And through crowd investing process, the company will keep selling those pre-IPO shares. The raised money will be used to maintain UST, to pay all the costs that I mentioned before, and the money that the company will be generating from its orders will become the income of the company. Income minus costs equals net profit, and the company is ready to share those profits with us. I hope this is clear, and this is why crowd investing will still be necessary. And friends, don't you think it's also a huge achievement? Because when people are saying it's taking too long, remember I mentioned it in the beginning of my meeting. In just 10 years, we are at a stage when the company is already ready to pay dividends, but it still needs money through fundraising to maintain its operations. But we're already at the finish line, almost at the finish line. And we're like 100 meters to the finish line. It's 5 minutes to the end. And we already covered the biggest share of the distance. And we're just there, almost there. Just one more day, one more night. And it's kind of 5 minutes to completion, you know? And by 5 minutes, I mean like a couple of years probably, in order for the technology to become properly global, large scale company with lots of commercial projects in the implementation. It's my personal opinion when that scale is actually reached. But during that period, during those several years, we need the engineering company to be able to handle all its tasks. And it will be able to handle all its tasks only if continuous funding is ensured. And this is where crowd investing comes into play. And this is why the company is still offering such high discounts. Like the biggest discount you can get right now is 144, because we have not just yet left the venture project stage. Because if we have left that stage, probably the biggest discount you would get would be 4 or 5 and not 144, because the company would be peachy already, would be set up. And this is why the discounts are still 100 are as high as 144 and will be kept at this level for 1 or 2 weeks. But after we move on to the Micron Global platform, it will be cut down by 30%. So it will no longer be 144. So friends, considering all the factors and all the arguments that I listed today, you guys can share that information with everyone else, with your acquaintances, friends, workmates, people that are around you, people who are not yet investors into the string transportation technology, and explain them in dozens of minutes that we are at the transition from a venture project to a real investment project, and we are setting on a stable, I wanted to say railroad track, I'll say string track. And it is still a very good opportunity for everyone to become co-owners of the string transportation technology at a very good discount and get quite a lot of pre-IPO shares in their portfolios at a discount 144, because when the Micron Global is launched, it will be reduced by 30%. So what I'm saying here, what I'm driving at, is because I want people to understand the time and place we're right now at. We are at the golden age of the crowd investing development because we have things to show. We have things to tell other people about. We have investment crowdfunding mechanism, which can allow all of us to become professionals, to build our careers, to become businessmen and earn decent money, because GTI allocates quite a huge share of its revenues for marketing. And this is the allocations are in our marketing plan, current marketing plan, compensation plan, and the future compensation plan. So why not take advantage of it in order to support and promote the string transportation technology and make money from it? Because again, you can earn very decent commission for your promotion efforts. And it's quite fair, logical, and legal. It's a unique opportunity that everyone can use. And those of you who have known me for a long time, remember that I said that crowd investing will still be in existence for dozens of years, because the fundraising for string transportation has set a trend, and other companies repeated that same path. And they now got reassured that crowd investing is a unique, effective fundraising mechanism for such technologies, as our users said, that it's not only about promoting the technology and become investors ourselves, but also earn money from the process. Why not? So, friends, next Sunday, I'm going to have a closed meeting exclusively for those partners who are ready to be active promoters on our platform. On that meeting, I will present our updated compensation plan that we elaborated, included additional bonuses to it. So next Sunday, we will have a meeting for those investors, partners, and colleagues of ours who decided to actively work on our updated platform, Micron Global. This meeting will be dedicated fully to marketing activities and marketing plan. It will be held at the same time, 5 p.m. Moscow time, and it will be exclusively for active partners. The regular meeting will be held on Saturday. So I decided to follow this kind of plan to have this gradual development, not to overburden you with too much information, because first I wanted to have meetings on Wednesday and Saturday, and then after your feedback I realized that 2 meetings a week would be too much. So we will have a regular meeting on Saturday, and the meeting for the compensation plan will be on Sunday. So why Saturday is because a day off, and we will have more people who can afford, who can spend time with us, because it will be not a working day. They will be at home. And today's attendance is a proof of that. And then on Saturday, we will have a meeting dedicated to the technicalities of the transition from RSW systems to Micron Global. And I will give you a detailed breakdown. And then on Sunday, we will have a meeting, I repeat, dedicated to the compensation plan. It will be intended for active promoters. So, friends, right now, all of you still have the opportunity to use the terms of the promotional offer with the highest discount of 144. So don't miss out on this opportunity. 3, 5 years down the road, 10 years later, you might regret it. Like people say that I regret not buying Bitcoin for $300 or $600. There will be a time when people will be saying that I regret not buying pre-IPO shares at 144, and someone will say it's a pity because I bought pre-IPO shares at 70. And this is a huge difference. Buying pre-IPO shares at 144 for $1,000, you get 144,000 pre-IPO shares, and then compare it to how many shares you can get at discount 70. So someone says, let's extend the discount 144 for the entire December and until the 15th of January. Unfortunately, it won't be possible, because once we move to the Micron Global platform, we will have to reduce the discount by 30%. Yes, there will be some promotions or marketing activities for each partner, but it's not gonna be the same discounts anymore. I can guarantee that. So colleagues, use that opportunity. You've had more than enough time. So Andrei says, my son bought at the discount 150 10 years ago. Well, I don't think you are right here. I think the discount 10 years ago was way higher. So why the discount is still high, in my opinion, is because the company has not yet fully left the venture stage, and the discounts are quite fair. As for what was happening 10 years ago, there were such discounts as 1 to 600. Some people still can enjoy the discount 600, and we should be glad to be given this kind of opportunity. Like Bitcoin used to be $120,000, and now Bitcoin is 86. You see? That's how the market works. Some people bought Bitcoin at 120, and now they lost almost 30% of the original investment. But people who understand how the market works, they will gladly buy Bitcoin at the current stage price because they know that the Bitcoin is going to grow. They will average their investments, reach the average price between the highest and the lowest buy price. And you should be taking advantage of the promotions and not blaming people for the unfair world. Well, the world is unfair by default. It's its default stage. This is how life works. It is very difficult to achieve fairness in this life. Well, if we want to be philosophical about it. If the company right now had dozens of orders for hundreds of thousands of kilometers of tracks of train transportation, I'm sure discounts would be way lower, of course. But since the company is at the current stage, not yet entirely out of the venture stage, then the discounts are quite fair, quite normal. You shouldn't be seeing any unfairness in it or some negativity in it. Okay, friends, I would like to thank you for finding time and spending it with us, working with us. We had more than 200 people live. I saw questions regarding the pre-IPO shares for the conference tickets. It's going to be implemented by our financial and IT department because we dedicated our resources to the launch of the updated platform, and the pre-IPO shares for the conference will be credited manually. We didn't have enough labor power, human resources to do that. But don't worry, the platform will give you all the pre-IPO shares that you own because it was a personal offer and promise from Dr. Unitsky, and he always lives up to his promises. So you will get all your pre-IPO shares in your account. You will get your extract from the shareholders, bonus pre-IPO shares and actual shares. So let me read some feedback. I see. Thank you for your information. You're welcome. I'm sure that this information will have a positive influence on your activity in the near future, and many of you will become our active partners on the Micron Global platform too. So yes, plan time at 5 p.m. Moscow time on Sunday. If you're going to be attending the closed meeting, we will not have a recording of that meeting because that meeting will be dedicated to our active promoters. This meeting will be about our updated compensation plan. It will be a meeting for the ambassadors of the string transportation, transport, and crowd investing. And on Saturday, we're going to have our regular meeting that will be dedicated to the technicalities of the transition from RSW systems to the updated Micron Global platform, and all the related details. Okay, friends, so see you in 1 week. Have a nice Sunday evening and a productive week starting tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone, and see you later.